The moment you feel irrational anger towards someone, pause. Not because they are wrong, but because something inside you has been exposed. Picture it. Someone speaks. A comment, a look, a tone. And suddenly your body reacts before your mind can catch up. Your jaw tightens. Your chest contracts. A surge of emotion rises that feels disproportionate, uncontrollable, almost embarrassing. You tell yourself they crossed a line, that they disrespected you, that they triggered something unfair. But Carl Jung would tell you something far more unsettling. He would say, they didn't create that reaction. They revealed it. Because no one can provoke what does not already exist within you. This is the shadow. And whether you like it or not, it is running your life. Today, we are not going to talk about positivity. We are not going to talk about healing in the comfortable, social media-approved sense. We are going to talk about the part of you you pretend doesn't exist. The part you hide behind politeness. The part you suppress in order to be liked, accepted, or moral. Jung warned that the more you deny this part of yourself, the more power it gains over you. And if you refuse to face it consciously, it will control you unconsciously. Most people go through life believing they know who they are. They say, I'm a good person. I'm not like that. I would never do those things. But Jung understood a truth that modern society avoids at all costs. Your conscious identity is only a fragment of who you are. The shadow is everything you have disowned. Your aggression, your envy, your selfishness, your hunger for power, your desire to dominate, to withdraw, to destroy, to be seen. From childhood, you were taught what was acceptable. Be polite. Be kind. Don't be angry. Don't be greedy. Don't be too much. Every impulse that didn't fit that mold was pushed down, not erased, buried. And what is buried alive does not die. It waits. The shadow forms in silence. In moments you were told no. In moments you learned love was conditional. In moments you learned that parts of you were dangerous to express. So you adapted. You became agreeable. You became reasonable. You became what the world rewarded. And in doing so, you split yourself in two. Jung wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. But most people do the opposite. They chase light to avoid the dark. They curate a personality. They build a persona. The persona is the mask you wear to survive society. It is useful, necessary, but it is not the truth. The danger begins when you mistake the mask for the self. Because whatever you refuse to integrate becomes externalized. You don't see your own aggression, so you see it everywhere else. You don't accept your own selfishness, so you despise it in others. You don't acknowledge your own darkness, so you hunt it. This is projection. And projection is how the shadow escapes. Have you noticed the people who trigger you the most? The ones you can't stand? The ones who feel wrong on a cellular level? Jung would say, look closer. That intensity is not hatred. It is recognition. What angers you in others is often what you have forbidden in yourself. The arrogant man triggers the part of you that wants to be unapologetic. The manipulative woman triggers the part of you that wants control. The lazy person triggers the part of you that is exhausted and resentful. You condemn them not because they are immoral, but because they are expressing something you are not allowing yourself to feel. The shadow does not ask for permission. It demands acknowledgement. And when it is ignored long enough, it takes over in destructive ways. This is why people sabotage themselves at the peak of success. Why they ruin relationships they claim to value. Why they act out of character and then say, I don't know what came over me. That wasn't a mistake. That was the shadow breaking through the cracks. The more virtuous you try to appear, the darker the shadow becomes. The more you cling to being good, the more dangerous you are when you finally snap. Jung observed that the most moral people often have the most monstrous shadows because they never learned how to integrate them. A person who believes they are incapable of evil is the most dangerous person in the room. So what does integration mean? It does not mean acting out your impulses. It does not mean becoming cruel, manipulative, or destructive. Integration means ownership. It means saying, I am capable of this. I carry this within me. And because I know it, it does not control me. When you acknowledge your capacity for aggression, you can channel it into boundaries instead of explosions. When you acknowledge your desire for power, you can wield influence responsibly instead of covertly. When you acknowledge your selfishness, you can choose generosity consciously instead of performatively. The shadow is not your enemy. Your denial of it is. Jung believed that wholeness, not perfection, was the goal of human life. Wholeness requires contradiction, light and dark, creation and destruction, strength and vulnerability. But modern culture rewards fragmentation. Be positive, be nice, be harmless. A harmless person is not a good person. They are a restrained one. Goodness that has never confronted evil is fragile. It collapses under pressure. True morality is forged by someone who knows exactly what they are capable of and chooses restraint. This is why shadow work feels uncomfortable, why people avoid it, why they prefer affirmation to introspection. Because shadow work removes your excuses. You can no longer say, "That's not me." You can no longer say, "I was forced." You can no longer say, "I had no choice." You must confront the truth that you are not as innocent as you pretend and not as powerless as you believe. That realization is terrifying and liberating. Here is the paradox Jung understood. The shadow only controls you when you are afraid to look at it. The moment you turn toward it, it loses its grip. Not because it disappears, but because it no longer needs to hide. What you bring into consciousness no longer erupts from the unconscious. This is why self-knowledge is power. A person who has faced their shadow cannot be easily manipulated. They cannot be easily shamed. They cannot be easily provoked. Because shame only works on what you refuse to admit. Ask yourself this: what traits do I despise the most? What behaviors disgust me? What kind of people do I judge instantly? Those are not random. They are mirrors. The shadow reveals itself through strong emotion, through disproportionate reactions, through obsession. If someone's existence irritates you, there is something there for you to examine. Not to justify them, not to excuse harm, but to reclaim what you have disowned. Jung warned that a society that refuses shadow integration becomes violent, hypocritical, and unstable. When individuals deny their darkness, they project it onto groups, ideologies, enemies. This is how moral crusades are born. This is how people commit atrocities while believing they are righteous. The shadow does not disappear at the collective level either. It simply finds new hosts. So where does this leave you? It leaves you with a choice. You can continue performing goodness, reacting unconsciously, blaming others for emotions you don't understand. Or you can do the dangerous thing. You can look inward. You can ask, what am I capable of that I refuse to acknowledge? What impulses have I buried? What parts of myself am I afraid to integrate? This is not a journey you announce. It is not something you post about. It is quiet, private, and relentless. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people live as if possessed by forces they don't understand and spend their lives calling it bad luck. The integrated individual is different. They are calm under pressure, measured in conflict, grounded in chaos, not because they are pure, but because they are honest. They do not panic when darkness appears because they have already met it. They do not need to prove they are good because they know what they are capable of. That is real confidence. That is real power. The shadow is not something you defeat. It is something you carry. And when you carry it consciously, it stops dragging you. So the next time you feel triggered, the next time you feel rage, envy, or contempt rising in your chest, don't suppress it. Don't act it out. Observe it. Ask what it wants to show you. Because the shadow is not there to destroy you. It is there to complete you. This unsettled you good. That means something inside you recognized the truth. And if you're ready to explore the parts of yourself you were never taught to face, you already know what to do. Not because I told you to, but because the shadow has been waiting long enough.